So, we've just got two new banners featuring Yelan and Emilie. Today, I want to talk about both characters and their value for Yoimiya. For Emilie's part, it will be more of a speculation for Yoimiya's potential synergy with Natlan characters. So, let's move on to Yelan first. Yelan has been Yoimiya's primary vape sub-DPS choice since her debut. Most of Yoimiya teams consist of Bennett and Yelan with one flex slot that you can fill with support units such as Kazuha, utility unit like Zhongli, or another sub-DPS like Fischl. If you see my Yoimiya guide, you will see Yelan in most of her teams except Chevra's Overload team. Now, I will explain the reason why you should get Yelan for Yoimiya. 1. Yoimiya can vape consistently with solo Hydro Yelan. Lots of players value high Hydro application from Xingqiu because most of Genshin players often use Hu Tao and Xiangling as their Pyro damage dealers. These Pyro units apply lots of Pyro, and using Yelan as the only Hydro sub-DPS in their team will cause inconsistency on their vapes. Yelan will be the one vaping instead of Pyro main DPS. There are some ways to make them work, but they're rather inconsistent, and you can't run them casually. This is why most of Hu Tao owners who run VV Vape for continuous Abyss runs already own C2 Yelan to allow consistent Hu Tao vapes. On the other hand, unlike Hu Tao, Yoimiya can vape consistently with solo Hydro Yelan due to her low Pyro application. This is why she can run various comps with solo Hydro Yelan, like Vape with Zhongli, Over Vape, or Double Hydro as long as she gets enough buffs from Bennett. That's for point 1. From point 2 onwards, the reasons to pull Yelan mostly revolves around her advantage over Xingqiu. Now let's move on to point 2. 2. Yelan buffs on field DPS personal damage. Just in case some players don't know, Yoimiya's role is the main DPS. This means that Yoimiya's best performing teams always have Yoimiya as the main damage contributor, and buffing her is the best way to improve team damage. Yelan might not buff your entire team like Furina does. However, Yoimiya often contributes around 60 to 70% of her team damage anyway, so you will always make the most usage of Yelan's buff. Unlike teams like Nahida Hyperbloom where Nahida's damage contribution isn't high, Xingqiu can't buff on field DPS like Yelan, that's for sure. 3. Yelan can use Elegy for the end. Elegy is a support bow that boosts your entire team's attack and EM. Yelan can activate this weapon buff easily, not to mention that its ER main stat helps Yelan's burst up time. This weapon is perfect for Yoimiya team where you often use Yelan as solo Hydro and Yoimiya deals most damage, so it's competitive or might even be better than Aqua Simulacra. I can't think anyone else holding Elegy other than Yelan for Yoimiya teams. Xingqiu definitely could never. 4. Yelan and Yoimiya share the same artifact domain, which means that farming sets for both characters is resin efficient. Yelan uses Emblem 4-piece set while Yoimiya wants to have Shimenawa 4-piece set, and both sets are farmable in the same domain. You can easily improve both Yoimiya and Yelan's gears because you can always get both good Emblem and Shimenawa pieces on the process. 5. Yoimiya and Yelan can make a good combination for open world exploration. You can still use your strong Spiral Abyss team on open world since they're always useful outside the Spiral Abyss. I mean, if you like using national team on open world, good for you. But whenever I switch back to my usual Yoimiya team, I realized how versatile this team is for both Abyss and Exploration. 6. Yelan is a more staple unit for Yoimiya than Furina.
Nani?
You might have seen lots of players glazing over Furina and ranking units based on their synergy with Furina. Furina is a great character, but Yoimiya can have more teams with Yelan than with Furina. The reason why Yelan is more stable for Yoimiya is that Yoimiya's older teams rely on Vaporize reaction. Yelan has enough Hydro application which allows Yoimiya to vape with her on many teams, while Furina does not have enough. Heck, even Yoimiya's current best team at Whale level wants Yelan in it. Yelan is currently the core vape enabler for Yoimiya, and I would suggest prioritizing her over Furina if you main Yoimiya. But if you can get both, why not? Now, let's move on to part 2 and talk about Emilie. Since Emilie is a new character, I will explain her kit as simple as I can. In my opinion, Emilie is an off-field Dendro damage dealer that excels in AoE. Her playstyle feels similar to Fischl. She summons a turret using Elemental skill, resummons it using her burst, and she is an off-field DPS. However, unlike Fischl, Emilie's damage is not focused on Elemental skill, so Golden Troop set might not be that good on her. Majority of Emilie's damage comes from her A1 passive and Elemental burst, and she needs enemies to be on the burning state to optimize her personal damage. Let us start from her elemental skill. Emilie's elemental skill summons a lantern-looking turret called Yoimiya's Case. This lantern will attack the enemy like Fischl's Oz and deal dendro damage. The lantern has 3 levels, and the level 3 is only achievable by casting Emilie's elemental burst. Emilie's lantern generates a scent every 2 seconds if there is a burning enemy nearby. After getting 2 scents, the lantern will release a whooping 600% multiplier AoE dendro damage to the enemies. This 600% attack dendro damage is Emilie's A1 passive. Moving on to Elemental Burst, casting it will resummon the lantern like Fischl. However, in Emilie's case, the lantern will go to level 3 and summon a rain of dendro damage for 2.8 seconds. This burst deals a lot of AoE dendro damage, so I suggest you to prioritize using burst over elemental skill to summon the lantern whenever Emilie's energy is full. As you can see, this one is from the elemental skill, this one is from the passive, and this one is from the elemental burst. This Yoimiya's Case level up system is the reason why Emilie desperately wants consistent burn to deal damage. If you mix the team with other reactions or let Yoimiya's Case stay at level 1, Emilie will trigger way less A1 passive and deals way less personal damage, which is the best and the only thing she has to offer. I have seen players trying to fit her into mixed reaction teams, but cutting down Emilie's personal damage just to force her working with non-burning related DPS is not worth it in my opinion. With her great AoE coverage, I think Yoimiya is one of the better DPS to use with her right now despite of average level of team synergy. Yoimiya's range allows her to apply Pyro even from long distance, which allows Emilie to trigger her A1 passive faster and more often. While Yoimiya's single target damage gets cut down, Emilie covers a great amount of AoE damage, and she is not that bad in single target. If your Yoimiya is struggling in some multi-target chambers, you can always use Emilie to cover her AoE weakness and achieve significantly better results than her other teams. However, the team's performance falls off compared to Yoimiya's any other team in single target chambers right now because there is no way to buff both Yoimiya and Emilie who cannot snapshot Bennett's buffs. In Overload, for example, Chevreuse boosts everyone in the team. While Bennett is not supposed to be a team-wide buffer, Fischl can snapshot Bennett's buff, allowing Bennett to be the second team-wide buffer who buffs both Yoimiya and Fischl in the team. The high team synergy and Buffer's ability to connect the on-field and off-field DPS allows Overload team to have great performance for a 4-star team standard. Burning teams do not have such synergy right now, and this is where we talk about Emilie's future prospects or potential in Natlan patches. We have received the info about the new artifact set. The new sub-DPS set allows the user to give elemental damage buffs depending on the elements involved in their elemental reaction, which obviously means that it allows team-wide elemental damage buff. If Pyro Archon will be a strong off-field DPS with at least Xiangling power level with capability to trigger this set, we will easily have massive team-wide elemental damage buff that connects the synergy between Yoimiya and Emilie. But hey, that's just my Copium and Hopium for the future. Who knows if they are going to release an actual competition for Xiangling with more utilities? For now, these are the only 4 teams I found viable. Also, to be honest with you, I prefer Burn with Kazuha over all other teams at the moment because the team fully covers Yoimiya in AoE. Others just don't excel in both single target and AoE as far as I tried. I don't really recommend using Yoimiya-Emilie teams for single target chambers for now, because all her other teams are just better for bosses unless you just want to try it for fun. She might find proper team synergy with Yoimiya once a Pyro Natlan sub DPS comes. Another thing I want you to know, Emilie gains a massive amount of damage from her weapon and early constellations just like recent 5 stars, so some people might not be happy about it. In fact, she is probably the unit with the biggest damage gain from signature weapon right now. The current weapon banner has great weapons, but please remember that the weapon banner just got update where you only need to reach pity twice to guarantee the chosen promotional weapon. So save it for your consideration. Now back to the main question. Should you get Yelan or Emilie for Yoimiya? I would prioritize Yelan since she is the core sub DPS for most of Yoimiya's current teams. If you already have Yelan, Emilie can give Yoimiya the best AoE coverage that older units cannot. Xiangling forces you to be in Pyronado range, and Beidou is energy hungry while Overload's knockback can be annoying. Therefore, Emilie definitely gives Yoimiya the best coverage in AoE department. And of course, the biggest gift Emilie can possibly offer is a great team synergy once Pyro Archon comes. But again, this is just my speculation based on all the info we have received, so take it with a grain of salt. So that's all for this video. Have a good day.